Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to talk about the new Batwoman series on the CW. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be talking about the new Batwoman series on the CW. I am totally caught up as of, what's today? I don't even have a watch on. October 21st, 2019. And as of today, there are 3 episodes available to watch. You can either get them on iTunes or on demand or whatever, or you can watch them on the CW app with commercials included. That's how I watch them. I don't pay for cable or anything like that. And I like the CW app for that reason, that you don't have to have, like, even the broadcast apps, NBC, ABC, all their live shows. I do have Hulu, so I do pay for that. So I did get that stuff, but like CBS, doesn't have any of these. But anyway, the ABC and NBC apps, you want to log into them to watch the over-the-air stuff that's paid for by advertising. You got to have a cable subscription, even though there are ads in those apps anyway, which I always thought was stupid and confusing. So kudos to CW for not giving a crap about cable subscriptions and just saying, hey, there are ads on our platform, you're going to watch them no matter what. You don't have a choice, so no hassle there. But that's besides the point. But I do like the CW app for that reason. The bad part is that it's only 5 episodes at a time. So if you go too long without watching a particular show you're watching, you will lose your spot, I guess, so to speak, or lose the shows. And that's what happened with me with Black Lightning last season. I let too many episodes lapse, and then when I came back to it, it was just like, more than 5, 3 or 4 episodes in advance of where the last episode was. So they were like on episode 8, I was on episode 3, whatever. I couldn't catch up. So it does make it difficult. You do have to keep track of it to do that. But you can also get them on iTunes for, I think, $2.99 an episode or something like that. So if you miss 1 or 2, which I've done before, I'll get those, watch them, and then jump back to the CW app. So that's a workaround. But let's talk about Batwoman. So this character, in the Arrowverse anyway, appeared last year on the Elseworlds crossover. You might remember her. She was played by Ruby Rose, who is a up-and-coming actress, and I think she was seen, first time I saw her was on season 2 of Orange is the New Black. She made quite an impression, because basically she first appeared like naked in the showers or whatever, hitting on one of the main characters of that show. But she made quite an impression because she's got this cool attitude, this kind of like slicked back hair, kind of like what mine looks like a little bit, but longer, more feminine, and has like a bunch of tattoos and stuff. Really pretty girl. And, she made quite an impression there. Then I think we saw her in a couple of other things. She was in John Wick 2, I think. And also, yes, John Wick 2, also in Triple X, the third movie, the return of Vin Diesel, which we talked a little bit about in the Bloodshot trailer review I posted earlier tonight. So she's been in some things, and she's up and coming, and she's kind of not quite like a hot commodity, but maybe more of a gossip hound, I guess you would say. She's gotten more attention for her political statements or statements on her sexuality and stuff. I think she's a confirmed lesbian. She's out in the open talking about that type of stuff more than, she's being talked about for her acting. So this Batwoman character that she did last year for the crossover was kind of like okay. And we watched the crossover. I liked it very much so, and I was like, I can get down with Ruby Rose as Batwoman. She looks cool in the suit. Does the suit look great? No, but let's go with it. So I watched 2 seasons of Gotham, I think, maybe into the first half of the third, and then I just kind of let go and just, let it go by the wayside. I know my buddy Ian Levinstein over on the Comic Geek Speak podcast and of the Comic Timing podcast really, really likes it for its goofy craziness. But me personally, I like the kind of more super grounded approach that the CW shows have, at least with Arrow and Black Lightning and stuff like that. So this Batwoman show is more of in that vein than necessarily the Gotham vein. Although we will see where this show goes, it could also develop something entirely of its own. I mean, look how Legends of Tomorrow turned out to be the wacky show of the CW superhero lineup, where they just go, you know, bonkers with the weird timey-wimey stuff crossed with whatever their focus is that season, whether it's magic or religion or supernatural powers or aliens. You know, that show is pretty much like Legends. Is just, let's throw something to the wall and see if we can figure out a way to make it stick. And that's how they keep inventing new things for that show. Arrow has kind of, in the last season I wasn't really hot on, so I'm kind of okay with it ending this season and how they've kind of shifted the focus to, I guess mainly, I haven't watched the first episode yet, to focus on the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. Since at the end of last season, Oliver went off with the Monitor on adventures and stuff. So, we have Batwoman basically to take the Arrow's place in terms of grounded superhero shows that don't feature superpowers. And that's cool. So, Ruby Rose plays Kate Kane, who is Bruce Wayne's cousin. And I remember reading in the comics when she first appeared. She first appeared in the series 52, which came out after Infinite Crisis. So this must have been 2006, and she was like just appeared on a couple panels in an issue or so, maybe around Christmas time. And big hit, big splash. Everybody liked it. Here's this gorgeous redhead in a bat costume, kind of similar to Batgirl's, where her hair's like hanging out of the costume, billowing in the wind. She had these really striking red gloves, really striking red boots with like the Bat moniker on top of them, and this red cape. And the black and red, any combination of black and red is really striking on a 4-color comic book page. That's why they're popular colors to go together. They match, really, really well. So this was just like a striking costume and kind of a cool pop of character. It was like, let's see where this goes. And so they handed that off to this writer, Greg Rucka, and this artist, J.H. Williams III. Now, if you have not seen J.H. Williams III's art, it is beautiful. I downloaded the Elegy thing. It's on Comixology Unlimited. So if you have that, you can go read it for free. The first couple arcs of Batwoman are there from the Detective Comics run. So basically at the time, I don't remember what was going on in the main Batman book, but basically they shifted Detective Comics and said, okay, we're going to make this Batwoman's book for a little while and see how this goes. And that's where she got her start. So anyways, this writer and this artist wrote the first 3 issues were her adventures with Alice, who is prominently featured in the first 3 episodes, and then we got her origin, and then there was a storyline with another artist named Jock, who took us, into some interactions with Batman and another villain, and that was kind of the end of the Detective Comics run. Then when the New 52 launched, we had J.H. Williams return, and he was doing both the writing and the art for a lot of the series. He is kind of a more detailed artist, so he did take a lot of breaks there. And that kind of petered out, I think, after J.H. Williams left. He wanted to get Kate Kane married, and I think DC wasn't down with that. So he left the book kind of just, throwing his hands up in the air and saying, if you don't want me to do what I want to do, then find someone else. So they did, and they kind of petered out after that series. Then when we had the DC Rebirth a couple years ago, what was it now? Probably 3 or 4 years. We're approaching issue 80 of some of these double shipping books. So it's 40 months ago. So yeah, almost a little more over 3 years ago that this started. There was a Batwoman book, and it was had Steve Epting on art, I want to say, and I can't remember the writer's name. It was pretty good, pretty interesting for a while, and then again kind of petered out. Um, so she's a popular character in that she keeps getting new tries of ways to engage readers and stuff like that. So it's interesting that the CW is doing this Batwoman show mainly because there's some like tablet, stone tablet in Warner Brothers offices somewhere that says CW, you can't have a Superman show and you can't have Batman on TV. Um, so that's why Supergirl has Superman as like a guest star all the time, or not all the time, but frequently. It's why you don't have that. That's why you have Supergirl instead, I guess. And Supergirl show has its own strengths and weaknesses. But it's also why Gotham ended the way it did with Bruce becoming Batman and you only getting like, I didn't watch the finale, so I can't say, but I believe there's only one episode where grown up Bruce was in the suit, right? Um, because there's probably some law somewhere on a stone tablet that you can't have Batman on TV because he's a movie character, which we all kind of know that could be false. So if this Batwoman show does well, is there a chance we could get a Batman TV show down the line? Of course. Would it be on HBO Max? Probably. The other interesting thing, addition to this wrinkle, is we're also getting like a live action version of Batman on the Titans show on the DC Universe streaming service here in season 2. We saw a little bit of his like costume there in the finale for season 1. Then they cast a very older British actor to play Bruce Wayne. The guy who was always saying "My Khaleesi" on Jorah Mormont on Game of Thrones. That actor is playing. His name's Ian Glenn. Actually, he's playing Bruce Wayne. I don't know if he's playing Batman or not. If he's in the suit, but anyway, that's Titan season 2. So there maybe isn't like a stone cold law that you can't have Batman on TV, but you can't have a show. But so based on those facts that we saw him, Bruce and Batman, in the last episode of Gotham, they're using him on Titans. I think there's a strong possibility that we may see Bruce, Batman, return to Gotham in Batwoman. And that's okay, because Batwoman right now is centered all around Bruce and Batman. Bruce has left Gotham for 3 years. People are wondering where the hell Batman is. And he's also been disappeared for 3 years. And like every episode is kind of bookended with a letter to Bruce from Kate Kane explaining what she did, why she's doing it, what her motivations are, and just kind of it's used as a framing device. It is actually kind of neat. I don't mind it at all. I kind of like her writing to her cousin. That's kind of cool. What I thought was weird, though, is the way they changed the origin. So in the show, Kate Kane suffers a tragic accident. Her and her sister are in the backseat of a car with her mother, and it drives off a bridge and hangs off very Smallville pilot style, which I thought was weird. But David Nutter did direct the pilot of Batwoman and also Arrow and Flash and Smallville and Game of Thrones. Like, David Nutter, if you don't know, is basically called like the pilot whisperer. Practically every show he directs a pilot for does get picked up. So I'm not surprised that it's like practically the same shots. I guess it's kind of a weird thing. It's like, I've seen this before from the same director. Very strange. But anyway, the car's hanging over the bridge here, and Batman shows up somehow and fires a grappling hook into the back of the car. In fact, we find out later on in the second episode, I think, or maybe in the first, that it was 2. And then so a little girl climbs out, and then the car goes over because the bumper breaks, right? So it was basically we're told it was a flaw in the engineering of the car, not necessarily the fact that Batman had 2 grappling hooks in it. He thought the car would hold. So the mom and the other daughter is presumed dead. Her name is Beth, and we're left. Kate Kane is crying and wondering why Batman didn't save her sister. So in the first episode, spoilers abound here, people. I mean, come on. And also, too, I can talk about it and you can watch it and still enjoy it. I think television is a little bit different that way in these semi-serialized episodic shows that we can kind of talk about what happens and you still watch it for the performances and all the details that I skip as well. I think you're okay. But anyway, when we find out later that when Kate discovers that Bruce is Batman, it kind of like shapes her in a different way, to where it's almost it's totally different in the comic books. So in the show, Kate Kane is in a military academy, not even in the military, but an academy, and has an issue with a girlfriend. She's dating Sophie Moore, and they get caught like making out or whatever, and then they are confronted. They are given the opportunity to like rebuke themselves and say, I'm not going to do this again. This is improper, immoral behavior. I guess this is at the time of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I know the comic book certainly was written saying like 7 years ago, even though it might have been during the Obama era per se. It says 7 years ago, like early 2000s, right? So during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell phase of the military, where you could be gay, you just couldn't be openly gay, and if you were asked to leave the military. That's not that case today. But anyway, Kate is headstrong and says, I'm not going to not be myself, and, leaves the academy. And the other girl says, oh, no, I'm going to go. Kate has options, I guess. Her dad's rich. So Kate goes to see her dad. Her dad leads this security team called the Crows, and they're basically like, trying to fill in for Gotham at this time. So all that is her origin in the TV show. In the books, it's very different. Number one is that Kate was actually, she was a West Point graduate. And on basically like the day of her graduation, she's given the ring. You see her celebrating with her friend. Sophie Moore is her roommate. On the day of her graduation, she's called into an office and basically given the same opportunity to rebuke herself, saying, hey, we'll give you a pass this time, but can't happen again. Same thing, don't ask, don't tell. Kate says, no, I came here to serve, and I'm not going to lie about myself in order to serve. So she places her West Point ring on the table, very powerful panel. It basically is like, this was my dream, to go to West Point, to be a part of the military, to serve, just like her father was an Army general or sergeant, whatever. He's like a high up dude in the Army. So she was kind of following his footsteps. And then later on in the books, we find out that her mom and her sister and her, in the books, it's her twin sister. But basically, the three of the ladies were captured by terrorists. And the terrorists actually killed the mom and the sister. And Kate is saved at the very last second by a team of, her father and his army buddies or whatever, SEALs, whatever you want to call them. And basically saved right after the terrorists were, shot all these other people, her mother and her sister. So she has like this tragedy, also this sense of tragedy, but it's not based on Batman at all. It's personal tragedy and personal motivation. So in the books, she meets Batman when she goes out on the lam and she's kind of angry at the world. And Batman saves her in Gotham and she kind of meets him, but she doesn't know it's Bruce Wayne. And she actually becomes Batwoman before discovering that Bruce is Batman, which I think is a great thing for the books, to give her this, like, she shouldn't care that he's Batman or not, or who Batman is. She just knows she wants to serve Gotham, and she wants to do it in a way that they know. There's a great line in the book. It says, you got to have something to let them know whose team you're on. And that's where the red bat symbol comes in on her suit. So instantly it's Batman, but it's not the Batman because it's a different color, right? And the red hair, feminine figure, all that gives it away, I guess. So it's very interesting to see the show, since I guess maybe they were looking for a framework to put the show around with these letters to Bruce, and just kind of like take her whole origin and twist it in a way that it's entirely dependent on Bruce Wayne and Batman and his failures and what he did or didn't do for her and that type of thing. It's very, very interesting to see that that change. But it's okay. It's all the same thing. Like, not the same thing per se, but they have the same elements. They're still. She was in a military academy, not necessarily West Point. I don't know if they could say West Point or not, but you know, it doesn't. It makes it seem more like maybe it was a military high school or college than to say like it was West Point. Which has a layer of prestige all to itself, and I feel like they could have said West Point, no problem. But the timeline is iffy. I mean, because Ruby Rose is, I don't know how old she is, but you go back in time, and I like say it's 5 years prior to the show or 7 years prior to the show. We're in 2019. You're still after the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So it's hard to rectify that thing a little bit, I guess, if you really examine it. But okay. They call it fraternization in the show. Like, you're not allowed to fraternize with your cadets or whatever. I guess that makes sense. So that's a separate rule she's breaking, not the rule for like, oh, you can't be gay. That's not true. What is really weird about this show, though, is that Sophie's still in the picture when she returns to Gotham. She gets kidnapped by Alice, whom the show is kind of like teasing. Is she her sister? Is she not her sister? That's pretty quickly like realized in the books that she is. But it seems like we're going to play with that all season, and whether or not Alice can be rescued or saved or brought back to the light side, if it were. So that seems like that's going to be the season arc, is, Alice and Kate's relationship and how they resolve that and how their dad comes in. Her dad right now has no idea she's Batwoman. In the books, he's on board from day one. He's like, here's your suit, here's your boots, and she's like, high heels. He's like, it's the only ones in red I could find. And he's like, he's her Alfred in the books. And it's a great, great relationship. But I understand the need for them to want, like, you can't have all these things in the beginning. I guess you could, but you can stretch the length of the show by building to something, I guess, as it were. So if we're going to build to her father discovering she's Batwoman, or Batwoman becoming part of the Crows, or, the Crows got to go to a downfall and she saves her dad and says, I'll give you something to fight for, be by my side, hey, I'm Batwoman. I could see that coming on in future seasons, and that being like a cool storyline. Her dad's played by Doug Ray Scott, who, fun fact, if you didn't know this before, this will blow your mind, was the original person cast for Wolverine in Bryan Singer's X-Men movies. Yes, that actor in an alternate universe is our Wolverine. Yeah, I'm kind of glad. So apparently there were some filming complications. He was filming Mission Impossible 2 with Tom Cruise at the time, and I guess filming went long or whatever, wasn't able to do it, or he got injured, whatever. We ended up with Hugh Jackman, thank God, and Doug Ray Scott went on his merry way to do whatever he's been doing the last 20 years. And now he's in Batwoman. I don't think he's bad, but we'll see where this goes. Like I said, I could see them doing more interesting things with his character rather than basically the same thing they did with Captain Lance in Arrow for the first couple seasons, where he's chasing Batwoman, and Captain Lance was chasing the Arrow, So I hope they change up the formula a little bit here. We also have Luke Fox, who, again, they kind of twisted, made him less threatening, less of an equal, and more subservient role. And basically, he's the same type of character almost as Mr. Terrific on Arrow, which is kind of a shame, because Luke Fox in the books, this is where this book knowledge, I guess, kind of bites you in the ass, because you're constantly looking at stuff going, is this cool? Is this not cool? But anyway, Luke Fox in the books is this like insanely talented computer programmer, son of Lucius Fox, and at the same time, he's a billionaire playboy philanthropist or whatever. You know, his dad's very high up in the company. He's got resources he can play with or whatever. So he's a great computer programmer, technician, hardware guy, whatever, as well as like this really good boxer. We first meet him in comic books. I think his first appearance um, after the New 52 and Batwing number 8 or 9, maybe 11. And he's just got like he's just his pose. He finished a boxing match. He's got the victory pose on, and he's ripped. You know, he's like super fit. So he's never played as a dweeb in the book. So to see him in this like dweeb Lucius Fox clone role is kind of a bummer. Hopefully they grow this character. I don't know the actor's name, but I'm hoping they grow him into an equal, and I feel like they will because most of these shows have evolved into a team show rather than a singular hero. But right now he's her Alfred, and I think that's okay. He's still got the geek tech background. He's able to create the suit and stuff, but you know, that's that. So in the third episode, Batwoman finally gets her hair, and my buddy Jim Afanis, Viper Magic, you've seen his reviews on the show, has been complaining to me the past 2 weeks at work about how goofy she looks in that cowl without the hair. And I have to agree that cowl is terrible. And in the pilot, it's really weird. They spent, I don't know what, they spent the money to make the Batwoman suit in the Elseworlds show, to make the molds and all that stuff. You know, like I'm pretty sure these television shows are not doing it brand new every season. It's iterating, like we talked about with Bloodshot. So they've got the suit designed, they've got the fabrics, they've got the molds, you know, so it's tweaked a little bit for the show, but they insist on having this Batman suit in the shot, like in the very beginning, with this cowl. And it's very clear when they're flashing back to Batman. This Batman has the same cowl on that Ruby Rose wears in the first 2 episodes that's shaped for her head. And on a man, it looks terrible as a Batman cowl. As a Batwoman cowl, okay. But when they put it in this 6-foot actor's head or whatever they did, it didn't look great. Not a fan of the way the ears are if you're just having like a fair head. But anyway, like it gave Ruby Rose, before the hair came out, when she was like the first 2 episodes, she's basically, the conceit is she's supposed to be wearing Bruce's suit, even though it's like a totally, 2 sizes too small at that point, when she alters it and stuff. Because Bruce is, I don't know, 6 feet. I don't know how tall Ruby Rose is, but you're talking inches and in height and weight and width, circumference, diameter, all that stuff. So it's kind of just a cheat. Like, oh yeah, she put on Batman's suit and people think it's Batman. But yeah, that cowl doesn't really do her any favors because it makes her head look really like oblong and like a balloon almost, that type of shape. So when the hair finally comes in episode 3, which is why I wanted to discuss it, that's when we have like our first fully formed version of Batwoman. We get the paint on the bat symbol, which is the same as Batman's or whatever, and a little bit of red. And I hope they evolve this suit over the course of the show. Maybe even the first season. I would like to see a fully complete suit at the end of the first season with red gloves and red boots. Maybe we'll get that season 2. Flash seems to evolve the suit every season, which is nice. Arrow kind of does, kind of doesn't, depends. They'll go like 2 or 3 seasons before giving you a new version of the suit. So we shall see, right? But what I love about the comic suit is that it's such a contrast. Like, she sticks out. She's there. She's going to kick your ass. One of the neat little details when they first launched this series in the Detective Comics run with Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams III is that they got rid of the high heels and put on these like big red combat boots. Like, this woman's here to kick your ass. She's not playing around. She's wearing real boots she can kick your butt in, not high heels. The idea of the wig, I think, is really cool. And just in general, for Batwoman in general, the fact that, it's not her real hair, and you think you see a woman with red hair, and you think, oh, the next woman I see with red hair, I'm going to think she's Batwoman. Well, guess what, guys? It's a wig. And I guess Ruby Rose is not going to dye her hair red the way that Kate has her hair in the comics. That's okay. And that kind of weirded me out a little. It's like, really, she's got the same color red as her wig on her regular hair, but whatever. So, Batwoman, I think it's off to an okay start. I wouldn't call it promising, but I'm willing to see where it goes. They brought in Tommy Elliott, who's Hush, in the 3rd episode, and he's got a vendetta against Bruce that's from the comics, from Paul Dini's run in Streets of Gotham, which is I always thought was a really good idea for making Tommy Elliott have a reason to hate Bruce. They talked about, paying somebody to riddle me an answer, which is obviously the Riddler. But I think they would be better off staying away from the Batman stuff, since we had so much stuff with Gotham, Riddler, Penguin, all that stuff. I would be fine with them sticking with the Alice storyline and peppering in a couple other villains that we haven't seen before, but really staying in towards, like, Batwoman had this crime family thing, the Crime Bible, this other group that was doing things around. I would really rather see them focus on that storyline and stay away from the Batman villains if they can, just to give her own show, her own spin. I don't want to see Batwoman fighting Batman villains necessarily. I want to see Batwoman being Batwoman. If she has to fight Batman villains from time to time, fine, but let's keep it loose, I guess, just in case we get a Batman show, right? So, this is a long video. Those are my thoughts on Batwoman, or an explanation of how I think it's interesting they changed everything. So, there you go. I think it's worth checking out. I would give it 3 stars out of 5, I guess. Promising, shows promise. We'll see where it goes. What's also interesting, too, is we're beginning at the beginning of Batwoman's career, and when we saw her in Elseworlds, she was, like, fully established. So I don't know if there's going to be a time jump anywhere in Season 1 or Season 2. She's supposed to play into Crisis on Infinite Earths. That is coming in December, very quickly, very soon. So I guess we'll find out how they tie it all in with the 2 crossovers. So that's it for me. If you guys like this video and you like these explanations, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, hit that bell. And if you don't, sorry, find another YouTube channel. But let me know what you think in the comments down below of Batwoman. Do you like Ruby Rose? Do you don't? And who's your other favorite character on the show? Right now, I think it's Luke Fox for me. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time in the funny pages.